Hello. This is a video affidavit. This video affidavit is regarding 5 times. I hope not sexually. I was kissed on the lips. And one time, I'm not sure if it was a guy or a girl, but by a guy. And I'm not gay. And there are proofs that people were trying to create exceptions because there were ties between those people I don't know. And that was through time, starting when I was a little kid. Like one time was in a boxing ring. I don't remember the guy's name, Shakai Moore or something like that. And in other words, he kissed me in the middle of the fight. But those people are tied to judges and to prosecutors and to doctors and to people associated with the Cub Scouts. In relationship to how I was talking about, I realized this in relationship to people that were creating instances. When I was a kid in each grade, they were creating instances. For example, on-off parks. That's also with a girl. It was implied tied to that. And now I don't know her name, but now she's a woman. One of the ones also associated with the people involved with the World Trade Center. And it's in that, leading up to that context, in sense, as one of the people involved with Washington, D.C., as one of the people involved with predicate acts with databases. Now this is where and how they're making polarities between people, where they have complete possession over the sense and sensibilities of men and of women, sickly distinctly. For example, in relationship to when you read about rights treatments, this commonly are self-valued, tactically criminally foreign influenced identity treatments that are not being allowed demonstrated. Uses of them are not being allowed demonstrated as well. And it is recorded why tied to this. There are mayors also tied to this. This is uses of identity ground locations. This is uses of a method that new modern nations, therefore all locations, areas, and states, would have to increasingly self-value. There are means by correlation nature, not to be used, not to be allowed free speech, including when there are overt/insidious identity thefts, frauds, acts, and methods against everyone, as the people pretending to be integrity since founding, pounding drums, locations, areas, and states. They have people pretending to be against bullying that are simultaneously involved with identity thefts and frauds, with the creation of instances where they're attaching little boys and girls to fake locations, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to other people. They have complete possession over the sense and sensibilities, the fact-cheating nature, use Jane Austen's phrase, of people with the identities of religious locations, also used for voting no, also used for juxtaposed natures of organized crime and of child abuse, identity thefts and frauds, also in the form of falsified police reports roles, which are also roles with mail crimes, wire crimes, sequence shifts, roles with that which were used effectively to maintain self-valued remote uses of Connecticut campuses, intercities through time connected, where they've been stacking instances fake into databases and then pretending in passions and emotions on those locations and off them in relationship to that which is preventing proper uses of passions and emotions and of calm. So that you're keeping calm to keep people's mouths shut and to exploit those instances and uses of them that are also many but bonded by a method that is recorded effectively keeping us needing to speak through other people. So one was a Brendan D. Simone when I was a little kid. And so in that Shakai Moore, when we were boxing, for example, there are proofs, it is recorded too, various ways, that there are judges and prosecutors that are involved with, in the background, conversations, and tied to them their roles fabricating audio and video into databases. Their roles with uses of each identity ground location, all along roads, routes, highway, right where the old historical locations in Wethersfield, where George Washington had to come to meet with the French general to secure the help to win the last battle of the Revolutionary War, to start the country. Had to leave slavery entrenched in Wethersfield. Increasingly positive to the discernment of a breaching method having been employed. And see that was his left out of all that is with reception of that. All that is with defenses of that, sensibilities of defenses of American history. Music playing in the background instead. See, there are 1/3/5 identities of theater. And when they're not positive simultaneously. So I'm not gay. And the closest thing, I mean, they're trying to make exception nature. There's also a guy, I don't know the name of him, involved with, these are also people involved with people on the child sex offender registry that are further involved with on-off campus upskirt pictures and uses of them, and roles with how other natures of names and other natures of wrongdoing and of worse are cultivated to the motivations, the fact-sheet nature, the syntax nature of people on and offline. The locations, areas, courts, the locations, states, police forms, and federal ones are recorded needing to hide lies and delusions, needed to hide actually recorded criminal foreign influence and delusions wrought, uses of all words / values, but like behavior, individually grouped in together, as sequence shifting roles, as a tool to pretend passions, emotions, and relationship too. This is also their roles with people who go to acting, involved with the departments of campuses, like with acting departments, and where and how they have police forms that are trained through schools, and they have people involved with the prisons that are trained through schools, and they have people involved with the military that are trained through schools, and they have shared our people here and their kids there, trained through schools, trained through identity ground locations, where and how they have, for example, these narratives about prejudice and things like that, and where and how they're pretending they have the integrity to speak for the law individually grouped in together, where and how their enemies or not, or allies. They value both as part of their needs, means, natures, needed to hide life progressions, needed to hide the actual value of their standing, positive quality of positive and negative treatments, sequence treatments, identity treatments. So outside of court, outside of courts that are involved with this, various natures of courts. There is a Christopher Cullen too. I never had any sexual relationships with him or anything. But there's a Joe Aiello who has friends who recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with like stuff like that, sharing girls and stuff like that. And identity thefts and frauds, sequence shifts roles with judges, prosecutors, and mayors. Also with people on and off the state judicial branch offices, with the houses next to it and all long routes. Not just from, so where George Washington had to meet with the French guy, with the French general, and the French people that helped us. Because humanity is helping us. But other nations needed help too. And everyone first. Where and how we are simultaneous nature. That's part of what's in demonstration of it. It's a demonstration of what causes positive or negative value nature progressions, though. See, this method set up, engineered everyone, blaming the real causes of negative value nature progressions, action natures on other things other than themselves, knowing that nature will continue to demonstrate that, and knowing that it could exploit that by understanding where and how we are an identity of value/value progression as its method /S. And see, one can't understand its method /S without understanding its perfect memories, perfect relationship to all identity of the ground locations. Tactically denatured to so stay. Syntactically reliant upon what everyone's physically reliant. Primarily because of that. And because that's denied, it stays, however, primarily through the breaching method, that stays increasingly self-valued. How that is never having been parted from, not America or any modern nation. The Native Americans and our founding parents did damage control. They lost the short words about how to grow this nature's means. They increasingly are forced to protract long words from that root. And as that root, tactical ulterior from that root, and as that root which is native pure, which is actually the means that we gather, where and how we understand. So these are people with the intelligence community associated with the D. Simone family and with Hartford Hospital, with all kinds of sexual groups and people involved with judges with various natures of courts. Hartford courts before their trades with the locations crimes, and then with their own locations also. They have methods bound by a method, and they have physical delusions, and they have sequence shifts and rules predator methods, and they have criminally foreign influence time treatments used all ways too fast, too slow, and they are with the people of the prisons with them. See, Jesus Christ is about how no one will allow anyone to indict that which is fake and hurting us, and indicting groups wrong so they can keep the identities of victim predators individually grouped and together like themselves. Method /S of blaming the real causes of sequence shifts, finite active progressive lies, and as their identities of criminal insidious nature, distinct from each other, blaming the real causes of other things other than themselves, because they are remotely used by the same thing, keeping the overt private enterprises, keeping campuses, sciences further individually grouped and together consciously, methodically, effectively, as what can't help but value, where and how the branches of government simultaneously in the overt criminal enterprise, everyone, killers, kept needing to hide the same sequence shift illusions, lie progressions, self-value means to get away with it right to the same spots, right to the same locations where all of these instances go down every day. Hear many pray. So there's a South Sevilla, and our people associated with the South Sevilla, who are recorded. I barely know a South Sevilla and his mother, but they're involved with men and women with the military and people associated directly and indirectly with a Dillon family that is also involved with them with uses of identity of the ground locations differences and sequence relationships to where they have complete captivation over each identity of correlation nature, where they are speaking about positive and negative through experts that are pretending to have integrity and having already pretended to have integrity into context where it is recorded that and how they worse than had no integrity and have no integrity. So they're stacking predicate acts into databases. They're using through time the same families, like generations of them, associated with campuses' databases, involved with this vertical and horizontal method that has even the youngest campuses involved with it because of how they exploit it through time and how they use names. Who trains? So there are people associated with a Brendan Leahy and with a bunch of various natures of courts, with him personally criminally involved with prosecutors and child sex offenders, including a principal child defender's campus. He also got his granddaughters and his kids involved with other people and other doctors involved with on and off their location, Hartford Hospital, and on and off campuses in Wethersfield, predicate acts with kids. Roles with officers forging and switching names. These are also officers involved with locations next to the Connecticut news media because of how they use from on off. They use from off locations. Now the hierarchy, like former director of the FBI and his defendant capacities, leading up to that, and in his defendant capacities, being and having been in the furtherance of relevant predicate acts with relevant child sex offenders and methods roles by that. And this is where everyone's forced to speak through other people, things, themselves. So a Joe DeMoro, who the one time I had when he words with his brother Paul was over the phone. He said he's a Wethersfield police officer. So I don't know that. That's just a person who made confessions, demonstrated, recorded. When he was a kid, he was involved with abuses of girls that were juxtaposed natures and relevant to their roles with prosecutors and judges, also with real estate crimes, and roles because their roles protracting lies and predicate acts into databases and with their mouths, and wire crimes and mail crimes. Like when I speak, they're making lies about me. They're making the lies about the substance of what I say, because they already took part with predicate acts into databases, interbranch, while they already took part with predicate acts with databases tied to them and not, simultaneously used effectively to keep more and more names. Needed to hide the same sequence shifts, finite active progressive lies, identity thefts and frauds, and motivations for roles with that against strangers, while they're preventing mandated law and pretending to be about it anyway, saying they can't be sued. They can be sued personally, but they're forging in names and switching names. They recorded, confessed, and demonstrated enough that everyone could discern. They lied to the Attorney General. Therefore, they already valued jobs and titles for what they weren't, while they were simultaneously valuing their roles with worse than the extortion of people with all identity ground locations, worse than their roles with worse than identity thefts and frauds against people with using the cases they have each day. Their roles with uses of investigators, and vetting identities to hide life progressions, to pretend legitimately to be about things, even when legitimately about investigations that are increasingly kept needed by that method that keeps increasingly self-cultivated roles with it through how it keeps everyone blaming other things, others, and themselves for the real cause of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, even when they're correct. Motivations like money, things like that, they always blame that are non-nature. Things that are being blamed, or they're blaming names out of sequence as nature that can't defend itself and afford a quality of fact-cheap nature necessary to be able to explain, to understand, let alone to counter that method of criminal insidious nature that is the breaching method that employed those database relationships, originally and still sickly distinctly involved with identity thefts and frauds in the suburbs. These are also people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with black and white leaderships, including black and white female leaders, including black and white female judges. Since founding, delusions wrought, rules, crimes, predators, identity thefts and frauds roles, offensively preventing mandated law while simultaneously fabricating audio and video, and having done that into databases, as their roles with locations, predicate acts, and with the Hartford courts involved personally, criminally with former director of the FBI, leading up to the World Trade Center attack in it, and with the military police and intermilitary, where they vet information, where they're only caring about their identities, in collusion with that which with and as that which you already used, all identity ground. They have different identities with different businesses individually grouped together. Why they're here, but why they're here and how they're here is also juxtaposed with that breaching method never having been relinquished from being here, or having been there, or having been there, or anywhere. This is modern nations in a semi-ancient trap, as clear as day, since before our founding parents were born, before cars, they had these houses, and then with the streets just fit the pathology of infrastructure of means to it. That which was what was employed to that breaking method that made everyone self-value roles, blaming it on other things other than themselves. It's worse than a breaking method. And this is even kings. Look at the size of that England became or was reduced to, because individually grouped in together. The ancients revealed English, more probably. For example, evidence, proof, is not only that and how recorded self-value clear as day, too many ways at once, are overtly / insidiously criminally foreign influence database relationships and self-valued uses of them and of the lie progressions, including the lie progressions as their natures, vertically and horizontally, from those locations, and with other people's names. So I don't know a lot of the people, but through quick instances, like with dozens of people associated with Central Connecticut State University and my town, and or through the ones who are like a half a dozen. But, through time, as ones involved with World Trade Center, Washington, D.C., intermilitary. It's more than half a dozen involved with this. So these are state police. These are people involved with forensics locations. All involved with predicate acts with the same house /S. All tied to the same house. Involved with the police chief years ago. And one now, through time, and his extended family members and the people intimate tied to them. Through time. Involved with identity thefts, frauds, falsified police reports, wire crime acts, methods, forging names, switching names, Various natures of departments and police forms involved with this, as ones also with overt criminal enterprises, body dumping spots, a serial killer, people associated with the body dumping spots, all having been involved with finite active sequence shifts, progressive lies, instances where and how investigators, identities of law, influence our relativity and influence communications with us and fake communications with us. And they're always putting fake communications where there is real. That's why and how. Why and how people demonstrate when they deny this. It is recorded note that they simultaneously have to value increasingly, overtly / insidiously, sickly fake, delusions wrought, and worse than criminally incompetent takes on the sciences in relationship to those standing proofs, as the suburbs are, of how we are tactically denatured, of how nature is demonstrating that with negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, of how that is being and having been self-valued. The real causes of that blame on other things other than self, is that is simultaneously self-valuing as victims, needs to defend and to self-value logic that is naive, simultaneously pretending other. So when we have these problems with locations where overt criminal enterprises, private ones, killers, and all the victim predators and the branches of government together are kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite active progressive lies. This is kept through how they are kept needing to kept roles getting over on, roles self-valuing, getting over on, having gotten over on, correlation natures, means by that which is negative, that is easy to admit is negative, and admitting that is simultaneously increasingly positive, and not admitting it is simultaneously stays increasingly positive, but as what is causing that to be increasingly negative in demonstration of it. We are supposed to be led by the identity of relativity, not by a theory. We are supposed to be led by how this identity of relativity uses correlation nature's identity, which is simultaneously more finite than anything that has been made, while greater than it. So while it is being itself, part of itself won't fit with itself one way, and part of itself won't fit with itself one way. Also, simultaneously, this is part of what the Trinity was revealed to teach about correlation and about the identity of engineering, of the identity of volume, that identity is. So there is the order of physics, there is the order of metaphysics, and there is the order of identity. And all three are ordered by that identity of volume, which stays more finite than, while being our active identity of volume. It stays simultaneously greater than our identity of volume. And this is the same one that is more finite than and is greater than all identities of space nature at once. Bach sings to campus dance with stolen name. Play game. So these are also people that are involved. See, the branches of government originally instilled, clear as day, they had to hide lie progressions while they were pretending to be about integrity by using elements of the theater that our founding parents had to pretend to hide their roles with that act that is waiting for us to fix where and how they're forcing us to self-value our campuses and our branches of government, simultaneously calling and keeping George Washington a liar, and simultaneously pretending other with physical delusions and as rules, crimes, predators, and already being and having been used remotely. Now, the other hundreds of nations at once have this problem too. So if one nation starts admitting it, becomes locations, areas, and states that can't defend their fact-sheeping natures that were in defense of ourselves, individually grouped and together, where and how they have the phenomenon of the difference between peaceful means to counter things rather than overtly sick means like wars to counter things, as a fake difference, as a good cop, bad cop, where both of them are criminally foreign influence, delusions, raw, victim, predator, tools, and having been kept needing to hide that, and having been facilitated to roles with the method that maintains methods of negative value nature, progressions, acts, and natures, to all locations, areas, and involvements with all natures of instances, keeping them blamed on other things, others themselves, rather than discerning how they are while they are simultaneously valuing that having been. All that tied to that, causing more negative value nature progression. Illusions. People walking up to others needing to create instances because we have fake integrity. Speaking for and as the syntax nature of each identity, the ground location. So correlation nature started and stays in identity that will never fit with the finite. So when the finite is being lied about, even though it is, we cannot see it, where we don't have the experience of the people with knowledge. That is, restricted for only them to have the short words and think. In other words, we have to be an expert in one science or whatever. They're getting over on correlation nature with the short words. And then with defenses of that. But we have to have mandated law follow outside of courts. And it is discernible how and what we can do. And where and how we have to use money. We're going to couple this as what is going to be like multiplications of that. Not needed to be paid for. Because we're going to overcome by claiming that which is tactically denatured as the suburbs. That simultaneously is awareness of and is movement to heal that which is even worse below the suburbs. I wouldn't say below, say, just sickly distinctly engineered to cause negative value nature progressions, action natures. Simultaneously have them blamed on other things, others themselves. Those are for people from off locations, simultaneously increasingly value roles with from off locations already, on off locations evil and fake care having been included in collusion against people, most easily discernible. So that's where negative becomes so positive. It is most easily discernible, where and how there is people stacking in New York City, where and how it is in other nations like China, all across Russia, buildings. Everyone played out the suit and ties, the alternatives, fake sides of correlation nature, arrays of fake difference, arrays of fake exception nature, arrays of self-valued roles, with fake exceptions being set up, and then they can't appreciate proper reception of the past in people's names, proper reception of the identity ground locations, like the schools. Schools are only increasing value, positive, where positive will only stay positive unto itself. A lot of what is schools originally instilled is only physical delusions, is only manifest as modular for and as waiting for that which is only capable of needing to hide life, progression, need to value, hurt each individual grouped in together, each difference of each age of fact, treatment nature of each location, area, and state. It needs entertained. That fake peace and that sick counter to the fake peace in collusion with and as what prevents free speech and mandated law and sequence truth and correlation nature and injunctive reliefs from remote uses of child programs through time, not just on the campus of the campuses in Wethersfield, not just with the Cub Scouts. They have the parks. They have the locations next to these places used for a method /S that has instances as clear as day. That uses the sense and sensibilities, the fact treatment nature, the nervous system of the fake branches of government pretending to be child integrity anyways as child abuse victim predators, delusions raw. Jesus Christ and forgiveness doesn't mean to be give up. It means these people are pretending we're having conspiracy theories when we use correlation nature. They have no forgiveness. They need to pretend others simultaneously. They are valuing, having been valued, all the fake instances of passions and emotions. Like with why they have so many people tied to acting departments with the police. In the police forms, involved with identity thefts and frauds, creation of instances, I don't know people, with parks when I was a kid, tied to the Central Connecticut State University in New Britain. These are parking on Wethersfield. And then that was exploited through time as the people involved with timed roles with criminal insidiousness that are roles with predicate acts, illusions, with the interbranch and foreign, and the military, foreign and domestic, as people involved with overt criminal enterprises themselves, knowingly or unknowingly, through predicate acts, through the roles of wrongdoing, sequence shifts, through the roles pretending passions, emotions with investigations, and people involved with those overt criminal enterprises, not just per how they have their narrations described through news and stuff like that, per their roles with time predicate acts, illusions, like the mail crimes, wire crimes, forging names, switching names, pretending me and other people tied to doctors we never had a conversation with. Because the one doctor I went one time to ask for help because of people involved with the World Trade Center attack. Before the attack, in the context and since, from Connecticut, they were involved with locations predicate acts and on-off interbranch locations, Connecticut. Same people involved with the same house/S with the Wethersfield police over the past 4 months, involved bringing more names in. A Sullivan family, more Sullivan, more people with the uses of names Sullivan that were confessed, recorded, not their officers. But these are also people involved with the Wethersfield town offices. These are people with remote uses of earlier administrations and of this administration, per their roles with remote uses of identities of the law. People on off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices, involved with the Fianza family, with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, and with people involved with real estate companies, involved with real estate transactions, also with Heather Hansen, involved with predicate acts against my father and against me and against my family and against other people. And with her father and with other people on Church Street, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with a pattern of predicate acts on my street and rolls with it, with the police forging and switching names, and with the military involved with identity thefts and frauds, and with the locations next to schools, and with the roles with the aggressions, and you prevent us from having aggressions to counter. These are some sick fake men and women, interbranch and intermilitary and inter-service people. We have people with the Coast Guard associated with Joshua Julian, associated with the Coast Guard, and women in the Coast Guard, and men in the Coast Guard, involved with the principal sex offenders campus, involved with how they have private policing of the schools and their family members also brought into it, where they have name stacking as a crime method that has crime methods by it, methods plural, by that one method, for example. And that is by a greater method. That is by that method that is discernible as clear as day. Hear many pray. So other Connecticut boxing gyms are also involved with predicate acts and with those people tied to directly and indirectly to the same house. That is also with a whole bunch of people involved with attaching me and others to fake locations through time. Weird behavior like that. Like outside of CCSU on Covington Street next to it. There are teachers of that school, departments of that school, and involved with child schools also. See, and with the locations next to it, for this method that uses identity ground locations, people's uses of names and things like that, and instances where they hear things through others. And they're making positive and negative treatments. They're making illusions. They're pretending passions and emotions that both the foreign need sometimes and that the interbranch need sometimes. And that is used remotely by a method that knew they would blame other things other than themselves, provided means to it, for things they had to hide, for things that will reveal the correlation nature, the things that they've been pretending not legitimately, even when legitimately they are self-valuing having been illegitimately, and all that is used remotely. There is a movie called, there's a book, I never read the book, I saw a movie on television one time called Lord of the Flies. This is Lord of the Flies, so when we call it Lord of the Flies, we're calling it what it is, but what it is wrong, not incompletely. And so we will be increasingly valuing those counters, blaming other things other than themselves in the defenses of themselves, leveraged against others here too, and having been. So we have Facebook pages involved with crime methods of the branches of government individually grouped together, where they pretend lies and delusions about behavior and about their roles of their treatments of race and things like that. Dishonest, victim predators, in the furtherance of that evil, through insidious natures of positive treatments, through the insidious natures of truth treatments, as lies, simultaneously fabricating audio and video, valuing that having been done, fabricated into databases, simultaneously increasingly kept needing to hide lie progressions, so self-valuing what knew that would have to vertically and horizontally, from their positions needing to hide lie progressions right onto campuses, right when the overt criminal enterprises, killers, and just all the people are kept needing to hide the same lie progression, because they need to keep trying to be positive. they were already used remotely by the people that are going to continue to ask questions, as the people that are continuing to ask questions. And so needing to use that to hide. So I don't know the Ray Reynolds. Like a few instances that they were all recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. I never, and Mike Pandoff and people associated with Weathersfield Police and with state police and with intercampuses predicate acts and with wire crimes, mail crimes, and criminal uses of the campuses, intercampuses, and intra-campuses. Now these are policing with the campuses, involved also with medical crimes, medicines crimes, and overt gangs drugs, and their roles with wire crime methods, plural, and mail crime methods, plural. For example, a part of what is using the name stacking, where they keep the identities of people on a mass scale, arguing with strangers, and us needing more and more to use the names of people we don't even know, but through people in the past demonstrably having been influenced by investigations, and investigators also confessed, demonstrated, and recorded how having been used remotely per their roles criminally for and influenced, while they had kids with the grammar schools, while they had kids with the the youngest ages, stewardships, where they had kids with the colleges and universities, where they had kids with forensic locations, where they had kids with military locations, where they had kids with state police, Department of Transportation, where they had, is everywhere, investigations, investigators, vetting identities, overt criminal enterprises, private ones kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, progressive lies. Uses of locations where boys and girls, young men and women might meet, where they keep those places criminally for and influenced, and roles with identity thefts and frauds, and falsified police reports, wire crime acts and methods, a whole bunch of natures of organized crime roles since before they were in there, acts and methods roles with the courts and prosecutors, and military and such associated, and medical and families associated with Middletown locations on the water, Harbor Park, America's Cup, involved with juxtaposed natures of organized crime and uses of it recorded, because they have uses of the types of investigators that are going to defend their identity anyway, where and how correlation nature shows types of law treatments are being used to hide lie progressions from where and how their patients and criminals are kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts with them, finite, active, progressive lies with them, identity thefts and frauds lies with them. So they keep you pretending you don't understand, while you are simultaneously not understanding, because you're not responding when I say, respond for the uses of the Facebook page for sexual crimes and for rape threats. This is the judicial branch since before the principal child offender was caught, and since then they've been hiding it. The same people are involved with Washington, D.C. and with the World Trade Center, all along roads and routes, all along that route that goes, Route 3 that goes by the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices. Also people involved with predicate acts with the databases at the schools I went to, involved with an Oliveri family I barely know, sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm his roles with predicate acts on my street, knowingly or unknowingly, when I was a kid, that were used for his roles with identity thefts, frauds, falsified police reports, and then uses of them through time connected. Now these are connected to the people with the name Sullivan, intercities too. There are people on Park Street with the name Sullivan, that are also involved with the predicate acts on and off the campuses, with the police forms and the courts clicks, and the doctors, and the principal sex offenders, and or people rolls with that further, and people on the child sex offender registry also having made fake sex offender registry map, because they have to tie to the extent of where and how they have to pretend passions and emotions as the people already involved with that. So we have judges and prosecutors that have methods recorded where and how they have their patients and criminals involved with sexual crimes, sexually natured crimes, uses of Facebook, uses of their opinions, convictions, and physical delusions, and predicate acts, while making opinions regarding other people's posts on Facebook, while they have been fabricating fake conversations with me, fake audio and video. There are 3 branches of government that are sick as day and night are clear since founding here. The judicial branch simultaneously pretends they put things in writing, knowing they don't. All exceptions in exception nature are in demonstration of it. They only put things in writing that are criminally foreign influenced and delusions wrought, and or rolls with that which went and goes down bad with every location, area, and state. Sick. So pick one name, stick. Connecticut. Get off the seat. Recede. All right. No, so this is also a citizen's arrest. I tell it best. Attorney General has obligations to take possession of Connecticut interbranch, of its military, of its forensic locations, for their roles also with all these other countries and overt criminal enterprises in private, with live progressions from those locations back to the campuses too. While the courts were kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts and uses of their kids, and the kids the adults that they hung around with when they were kids, involved with predicate acts with them, identity thefts, frauds, rolls, fabricating audio and video, acting instances where they each act different, but they share sequence shift roles, lying about what came up before that. Also, not knowing per how they use sense and sensibilities of people, not per Jane Austen, but using her phrase. Using humanity's identity of volume actually properly, as spoken for, which it is not allowed free speech. So, because of people pretending they don't believe, when officers fabricate audio and video into databases and attach us to fake quotations, various natures of courts are involved with this criminally and forensics locations. Also because in the past, with the transition from ARCA to RICO, they're involved with families involved with predicate acts with that. I caught them involved with now predicate acts with child sex offenders on and off campuses further then and now involved. And it has the relationship to do with people that have roles with other nations, countries. There was a Daryl Chandler who pretended to know me too. I don't know him. He walked up to me with a clipboard or something one time and was talking about Joe DeMauro also confessed and recorded. They have rolled with Asian countries and military and foreign and domestic, overt criminal enterprises and medical doctors of their minds, where they have sick mental diagnosis of themselves. They pretend other people have roles ties to their doctors. These doctors fabricated fake audio and video with other people's kids, let alone the kids they have in their possession. They've been screwing them up. So you need to get the judges with them, because they're pretending they have to have people have faith in doctors so they could simply prevent, so they could exploit anomaly associated with the databases, associated with the live progressions from having had such pretended integrity. Clear as day, correlation nature sees through walls. One identity. So, this is an affidavit for the victims of the Cub Scouts, but this is also for the Cub Scouts. If you will help, but you guys won't help. So they back you into victim predator roles. Same things with the church. I want help for the uses of the Facebook pages of the campuses and of interbranch and collusion with them. Further then and now with the principal sex offenders campus and with male and female doctors and their kids and their families and their roles with predicate acts with WFSB that attach me to fake conversations. No. I want them on paper now. You need them on paper now. You want them on paper now, America. They're not going to let you hear me. They do. These are people with off-the-records methods, messing with the sense and sensibilities of everyone, ties to the methods of keeping people not from being heard. They stole my me to fake words. They sold the people around me to fake words. Fake ties to doctors as a kid. WFSB. They won't fix the fake news. They have wire crime action methods, mail crime action methods. They have roles with that, with email. They pretend that online is not real. All exceptions and exception nature are demonstrated too. They're simultaneously pretending other. That's evidence too. That's why it's necessary to get them onto paper. It's necessary because the evidence is them pretending other at the same time, switching and having switched names, having valued that while they were fabricating audio and video into databases. So there's an Officer McDonald's also involved with switching with other officers intercities who are involved further with sexual abuses of girls and of women, and then having applied that to their roles with the real estate crimes on my street that judges and prosecutors are involved with, where and how there are recorded remote uses of investigations and investigators tied to the pattern of predicate acts that Wethersfield police have been involved with over the past months. Before that, and before the World Trade Center attack, in that context and sense, and before a 2006 district court case, in that context and sense, the same people involved with sexual abuses of little girls. There's Alison Mulcahy, her sister. I never had a conversation with her in my life. She's involved with various natures of police forms and judges with predicate acts, identity thefts, and frauds per the people tied to them. I never had a conversation with her in my life. Also with the locations next to Fox Connecticut News and with the owners of buildings involved with abuses of little kids. And this is also how they have women motivated to it, per everyone speaking through others. Then they get locked in, where they have all fake men and women already in collusion with each other. And the sequence shifts are critical to address where and how we are dealing with this, the invisible but still discernible, as that discorrelation that is negative value nature, that we're going to use as positive value nature. We're not going to make negatives into positives. We're going to show where negative shows positive's identity of volume that is only increasing, being exploited. Where and how we're going to show